Here we go again, looking at something fairly painful and cringy. It's not hard to find specimens like this during the internet age, but it sure is fun to criticize. Today we're hitting you with some poetry. You know, the stuff that way back in the day was actually quite well written and deemed artistic. Poetry which once took time to create and had actual thought and care put into it. Until hippies got a hold of it and turned it into the garbage it is today. So let's just dive right into Button Poetry, where they came out with a video back in November featuring Melissa Lozada-Oliva with her hit new single, If I Got Paid for All My Emotional Labor. Already off to a great start with the title, I Know.
If I got paid for all of my emotional labor, I'd have a lot of money.
Remember when I said actual thought and care used to be put into poetry? You see how one could come to the realization that this probably isn't the case anymore? This lady, who came onto stage in front of an audience being recorded, figured that I'd have a lot more money, was a great line. You see, Melissa, other ideas that probably would have worked better here would have been something like, I'd have a mass amount of wealth. I'd live like Scrooge McDuck. I'd make Trump blush. You know, any of those things that I came up with in 30 seconds or so. And some of you may say, well, it's for the rhyme, of course. And here's something, my dear viewer, you may not notice. Is that it doesn't rhyme well in the first place, and this may come to a shock for those who forgot their poetry writing course in English back in high school. Poetry doesn't have to rhyme. While it does sound nicer and seem to have more flow with a rhyme, it is not required. Some of my favorite poetry does not rhyme. I personally don't like when phrases or lines are twisted just to match a style. That's just a preference though. Maybe that's why I don't like this poetry. It's just not in my style. I digress. I'm sure some of you at this point might be wondering, what is emotional labor anyway? Don't worry, we'll get into that later in the video. For now, let's just continue to listen to this lady's shrill voice.
I would get 100 different wigs made out of exotic horsehair to match all of my moods.
Gonna quickly interject here and just say I bet between many of her friends this would be considered animal abuse, but she can't be bothered to be inclusive while writing this.
I'd replace all my teeth with tiny iPhones. I'd pay all of the tall people and people making out at shows to stand in the back because I'm bitter.
Excuse me, Melissa, but you're bitter, so others around you should conform to what you want? Everyone should bow around you, cause you're bitter. Call me old-fashioned, but I feel that to get what you want, you should either A, work for it, or B, earn the respect that deserves that kind of treatment. Oh, that's right, I guess you did work for it, but we're getting ahead of ourselves here. I don't want to ruin the surprise of what emotional labor is. One more thing. If this is the way you'd spend your cash if you had, a lot of money, then it's no wonder this generation is always complaining about being so poor.
I'd wear lipstick made out of gold dust. I'd get a full body tattoo of my body and put it on my own body. I'd go to therapy. I'd get medicated,
Mental illness is a joke now too, I suppose. Are you joking at the fact that you'd go to a therapist as if it's a bad thing? That you'd get changes that could potentially improve your life tenfold? Maybe the medication would work by making you less of a shitty human being who feels that they deserve money from your emotional labor, as if you shouldn't do it just because it's the right thing. Maybe it would make you realize that your art, your poetry, is terrible, and that maybe you should shift your style just a little bit.
I'd finally get a pony. and hire someone to take care of my pony. I'd ride my pony on the streets so everyone could be jealous of my pony. I'd send 1,000 rainbow empanadas stuffed with nails to Mike Pence's house.
Ooh, now we're getting dark. My favorite. Let's touch on the pony first, though. I'm glad you're going to hire someone else to take care of it, because I wouldn't trust you to take care of your own yard, let alone another living being. I'm glad you can recognize that deficiency of yours. How responsible of you. And yes, of course you'd only ride it around to make people jealous. That's just the kind of person you are, Melissa. You'd do anything to be the center of attention and to make others look up to you and glorify you, even though you haven't done anything special. If this were France in the Revolutionary Ages, you'd be one of the nobles that let the nation starve while you stayed fat in your castle. I'm glad that you're resorting to violence, though. I'm sure Pence would enjoy it to a degree. I mean, free nails, which are made of metal. Metal is an electrical conductor, and we all know how much Pence loves electricity. Zap zap, Melissa. Maybe you're afraid of electroshock therapy. That would explain why you merely joke about going to a therapist rather than actually going to one, knowing they may find something wrong with you that would actually justify that sort of treatment.
I'd hire an unassuming, relatively attractive white man to follow me around, so every time you don't believe me, he can just repeat what I said, so then, you do believe me.
Oh, good. Maybe this guy that you hire could do more than just follow you around and parakeet everything you say, but actually translate your words. Kind of like what I did for you earlier, remember when you said I'd have a lot of money? Is this the kind of thing this guy would do? 'Cause I'm all for it then. I feel that would come in great benefit to you and everyone you interact with. It's funny though. You say other people only believe white men. When looking at current events, I would disagree. David Hogg, at least appearance-wise to myself, is a white male, and a lot of people think he's a clown. If you say stupid things and have someone else echo those same stupid things, no one is going to take it any more seriously. In fact, I would argue that it would make you more of a target to ridicule. I know I certainly would laugh at any person who follows someone around and just repeats everything they say. I think a majority of people would. That person would look ridiculous. They would have no merit of their own.
I would replace my throat with one big lozenge so it would never get tired of yelling. I'd make this scientifically possible.
See, here is the perfect place you could use a translator. I had to patrol the comments of this video just to find out what a lozenge was. Apparently, it's just the autistic way of saying lozenge, which might I add, none of us would mind if you lost your voice. Please do, in fact. Maybe it'll teach you that yelling is not a good way to get your point across. You look like you don't know how to act properly in social interactions, which, might I add again, is autistic.
I would buy my mom something nice to wear. I'd buy my mom a house in a place that smells like oranges. I'd make sure my little sister finishes school.
These are all perfectly acceptable and kind things that you can do for your mother. I only have one gripe, however. Have you ever been somewhere where it smells of the same thing constantly? One of two things happen. You either become completely unaware of the scent eventually, rendering it useless and a waste of money. Or if the scent is strong enough, while refreshing at first, you become sickened by that scent. For example, I used to have this one type of mustard I loved because of the smell of it. I would put it on everything, just for the scent. One day, I opened the container and I felt sick to my stomach after taking a whiff. I don't eat that mustard anymore. I still can't. All I'm trying to say here, Melissa, is change up the smell once a week or so. This way, there was always something new and refreshing going on. One week have it be oranges, next week apple pie. I'm sure that will go a lot further than mindlessly purchasing and placing the same scented candles everywhere. Whew, that was a long tangent.
I'd never be hungry. I'd give my abuelita all of the calling cards in the world.
Alright, here it is, the big finale. I may just let this last part play on without interjecting. Here is the reason I will never respect Melissa, the big secret to what emotional labor is. Are you all ready? 'Cause you're either gonna be underwhelmed or pissed off. I know I'm the latter. Let's go.
If I had a nickel for every time I stayed up too late for someone who would never wake up for me, $1 for every minute I tried to make a sad man feel less sad, a penny for every time I had to bend and stretch to prove to someone that I am here, that I exist, my heart would rattle and shake with all of the coins spilling back into it. I would stop digging around in my pockets for pieces of myself covered in lint. I'd glue my soul's piggy bank back together. I'd give her a kiss. I'd put her back on the shelf. I'd only worry about saving myself. I'd never feel like any of this was my fault or like I owed you one again.
There it is. Selfishness. Melissa Lozada-Oliva, or however you say it, is selfish to her core. She does not want to help people simply because it's the right thing to do. She wants something in return. Now, the money aspect was supposed to be symbolism. We aren't supposed to actually take what she said literally, and she isn't supposed to be literally paid for her help either. Hence one of the last few lines, where she exclaims about the soul of her piggy bank and how it would be put back together. Regardless of actual money or actually being paid to help others, she doesn't want to be a good person just for the sake of being a good person. She wants something in return. She wants to know that if she helps you, you'll help her. That if she stays up late with you one night because you're having a crisis or a problem, that you'll wake up the first sound of a text or a notification when she needs you. I mean, what other possible reason could there be to help someone? Because it feels good? Or because it's the right thing? No. If you ever do anything in life, don't do it for free. Remember that if you help someone, you should bring it up whenever possible to guilt trip that person into doing something in return for you. Preferably you find a real sucker, and one that you can use your one-time helping of them to equate into several times that they do something for you. Guilt is a hell of a thing, and if you can hold someone by it, you damn well should twist them by it as much as you can. These people like Melissa, are why it's so hard to find good people who are just good for the sake of being good. Instead of using her platform, her audience, her moment in the spotlight to tell people to do the right thing simply because it is the right thing, she stood up there and said, "Don't do the right thing because you won't get anything in return for it." I don't respect Melissa, nor will I. I've watched some of her other poetry for this video, and I do have to say, I suffered. They were all about to this quality, though the others, I would argue, had more flow and more of a proper poetry feel to them. Even if the lines were garbage, at least they weren't as poorly written, I suppose. It's ironic though. The one I watched immediately following this, the video's subject, the poetry subject, had her criticizing others because of their disingenuousness towards their causes. I'll leave a link to it below. Essentially, it could be broken down to, they support a cause but only do it for the benefits, so I'm implying it's bad. Do as I say, not as I do.
Well, If that hasn't got Oscar written all over it, I'll eat my invitation to the award ceremony.